Hey everyone, thanks again for joining us on the Payments Ecosystem podcast. I'm your host Shiladitya, and today I'm welcoming the other half of the founding team at Cashfree, none other than Reeju Datta. So, Reeju quit his job at Amazon in 2015 to start Cashfree along with Akash. Initially starting out as a payment solution for restaurants, Cashfree has since come a long way. Now working with more than 55,000 companies on multiple solutions, Cashfree's rise has been nothing short of meteoric. It's an absolute pleasure to have Riju on the podcast. Let's jump in and have this conversation. Hey Riju, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey Shiladitya, great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty good and have seen you around on Twitter a lot and good to be chatting finally.
Oh, I know. I think I don't want to know what you saw me doing on Twitter, but yes, I think I've had a chance to talk to Akash now a couple of times already. Once on a previous podcast, now on this series. It's good to finally meet you as well. And of course, I've been a big fan of what you guys have built over the years and been doing from the start. Little bit of dabbling of payments I've done myself in my past life in the early days. So
Sure.
I definitely have a
Mhm.
lot of respect for what you guys have built, and I'm glad to be hosting this show and getting a chance to talk to you guys. So
Sure.
welcome,
Yeah, looking
welcome,
forward.
welcome to the Payments Ecosystem podcast, as we're calling it. And of course, we all know you as the co-founder of Cashfree. Your background is IIT Kharagpur, but to give a flavor to folks listening in today, uh, what are what is your identity otherwise?
Hmm.
Beyond this persona that we know, is there any other way
Yeah,
you look at
yeah,
yourself as?
yeah. Yeah, so I think most of my professional identity has become cash free because I've probably worked for 9 years and seven of them have been with cash free, right? And prior to that, just before, like, out of campus, I worked at an analytics firm in Gurgaon, and then at an e-commerce retailer, a furniture retailer, doing online marketing. So those were the early initiation days. But yeah, then on, I think it's been cash free. So that's the professional part. And outside of that, so I'm Bengali, so my parents grew in and around Calcutta, so a lot of trips to Calcutta during the summer vacations, which are fond memories. I like to eat out a lot, try different kinds of foods, travel around, right? And yeah, maybe I'm into sports, watch for cricket, football, like many people are. Yeah, so those are some of the things I used to read a bit, right, early, but I don't think I've read a lot recently. So yeah, that's maybe one of the things I would want to catch up on. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. I mean, since you mentioned you're Bengali, I say
Yeah.
this a lot, and the stuff you
Mm,
described, you are
mm.
probably a lot more Bengali than I am, because yeah, I mean, I don't watch half enough soccer as you
uh,
probably do,
uh,
uh, far from playing it.
uh,
So, and I think that's also one of the culture things I've been hearing from other folks I've met in Cashtree as well. I think. There's a little bit of sports going on with a lot of folks in the team.
yeah, actually, yeah, so we have weekly games. We have WhatsApp groups and people show up for football, cricket, badminton, I think, and then obviously there is the office table tennis, right? So yeah, I mean, I think
Nice,
we like to play, and there are people in the company who like to play. Yeah. And I
nice.
do
That's good to
join.
know.
Yeah, everyone joins. And yeah.
You know, even before your working life, what can you tell us about sort of your upbringing, growing up, childhood years, even anything which sort of you think recall has influenced the direction in which your life has taken?
Yeah, so I grew up in Delhi, in and around Delhi, and my parents both worked in PSUs and government services. So it was a so-called typical middle class kind of a setup where we had to study, right, and had to do engineering, right. So that was the nudge, I would say,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and then in school, I think I was a decent student, right, and yeah, I mean, and I think mostly, I think it was a lot of academics and science kind of push, and Yeah, I think, and then I think there was this thing of let's say traveling around, right? So like fond memories of traveling around to various destinations in India, in and around Delhi. So in Delhi you can drive out
Okay.
to close by
Yeah.
hills. So I've done a bit of that with parents, and then later on, right? So yeah, like the early memories are of growing up, going to school, coming back, mom calling to check, am I studying or am I sleeping, right? And then going out to play in the evening and coming back. So that was the routine, right? So that I had pretty much had during my school days, right? Yeah.
And when you look back at influences of people or anything like that, was there someone in particular or some people in particular who sort of made you go in a particular direction?
Yeah, I think it would be my father, first my grandfather, and later my father. So right, I think fond memories of hanging out with my grandfather. He was a doctor. He taught me how to play chess, some basics of maybe the curiosity to explore things, right? So for instance, when I was in class 1 or 2, I got very interested in countries, capitals, geography, those kind of
Mm.
things, which is like an interest I even harbor today. So I like to read upon very obscure things, right? So maybe that's coming from my grandfather, and I think maybe the love for sports and the inclination towards like maybe engineering and technical sciences, that comes from my father. A lot of the values also maybe come from my father. So yeah, I think those two people would be my role models, so to speak of. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And I think this curiosity thing is I think a default for a lot of entrepreneurs. If that comes into you early, I think you
Hmm.
also gravitate towards entrepreneurship naturally. That you don't accept what is status quo. So that's great to know. And of course, we're thankful that you chose to do what you did and build Cashfree. Jumping into, let's say, the early days of the company itself, right? I think one of the things that you all did a little uniquely was that while a lot of companies look at external factors and choose to, let's say, change their business model, change their original conviction and thesis based on, let's say, massive events like COVID happened. A lot of companies chose to pivot, uh, their business models and so on. But I think you guys are unique in your history that you sort of did that in your first year itself, where
Mhm.
you went in with an original plan and then you did a very big pivot in the early days. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think we initially started off in payments, right? So, and we're still in the payments, right? But what we started off with was kind of like pay online on delivery, right? So when we started in 2015, there was no UPI, right? And most of the orders, if you recall, were paid by cash on delivery, right?
Yeah,
More than 60, seventy
yeah.
percent I mean, you could take a Swiggy, and Swiggy was just starting then, and then you had the Flipkart, right? Everything was 70
Mm,
COD. So we figured that maybe the online payment solutions at that time had something missing, right? And the initial click was it's a big market, 70% of online payments, and if we can maybe capture any part of that, right, that's a big market. So then we went in and we started doing outreach to smaller shops, restaurants, right, and night delivery restaurants.
mm,
Were our first sub segment that we went out with, because at night you order and you don't have
mm,
exact cash change, right? So that was what worked. Yeah, so I mean, that was the initial set, and then we realized that the restaurants themselves were trying to go online, right? Everyone wanted an online business, they wanted to accept payments online, so they themselves asked us, why don't you give us this website payment option? And from there, I think the journey to become an online payment collection company started, and that's how then we evolved, right, from an offline solution.
mhm.
We became an online. So the why the online thing maybe did not work at that time was it was hard to scale. I mean, right, like the
Right.
like you onboard a merch, maybe, and there was maybe no UPI. Maybe with UPI it would have scaled, right? Right. So at early days, yeah, I think it was difficult to acquire a merchant and get enough transactions and make enough revenue out of that. So that's why I think we were forced to get into the online space, and because merchants were asking us. That said, I think right now we are I think like maybe the timing is better now, and then we are trying. So we have we are working on this product and have got pilot customers. So it's a soft
Oh,
POS,
nice.
soft POS. So it kind of works on the same function that you are, let's say you have delivery boys, or you are a restaurant which has waiters, right? And you want to give them an app, and they can go to the customer, and at the point of sale they can collect the payments, right? Maybe through a UPI.
Yeah.
So it looks very different. So our initial idea actually, even before, like I said, pay online on delivery, the initial click was, delivery boy will have an NFC phone, customer will have an NFC
Ah,
phone, they'll tap, and the payment will
yes,
happen.
yes.
So yeah, but the NFC revolution never
We've
came. Maybe it will
we've
come
all
now.
dreamed of that. Yes,
Yeah. So yeah, so
hoping that
that's how
NFC takes off.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that was the journey. Yeah, that's how it happened.
No, but I'm glad you guys are still, getting a chance to revisit and solve that
Mhm.
original problem
Yeah.
after obviously building a great base of,
Yeah.
being it's a B2B2C sort of a platform. And
Yeah.
coming to, of course, 2015 when you entered, and very quickly 2016 was, I guess, all the other breakthroughs of fintech in general. I mean, there was a flood of fintech solutions, both government as well as private, and startups. So how have you sort of worked on, let's say, staying apart and sort of I would say coming out of the clutter and maintaining the cash free brand? Is this something you do consciously? Is this something you guys are actively aware of, like differentiation of your offerings and value proposition?
Yeah, so I think we try to look at the business, and we look at all the payments that they're doing. Like, and one of the first insights was a business. Not only do they collect payments, they also make payouts, right? So hence we
Hmm.
built something like a payout solution, right? And then there were a bunch of businesses, right, that like that, right? And then it helped them grow their business. So like that, I think we look at what are the problems businesses facing, and payments has been rapidly evolving, right? You have different payment methods led by UPI. You have different kinds of payments like recurring payments. You have B2B payments, right? Credit, buy now pay later. So all of those things are changing, and then there is the technology component, right? How you actually integrate it on like okay, on an iOS app, on an Android app, or mobile web, or website, right? So with that
Right.
complexity, I think, so we make it easy for the business to manage that complexity, right? So trying to simplify things, and give a modern payment stack that is reliable, secure, works at scale, right? So that is the aim, I think, that we try to do. And then so far we have been, I think, okay there, and I think back that up with good customer experience in terms of
Right.
ease of onboarding, quick onboarding, ease of onboarding, being responsive, right? So that's the idea. I think we try to keep it simple. I mean, I think it's not yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you make it sound simple, but definitely there's a lot going on, under the hood when it comes to
Mhm,
delivering all of these solutions,
mhm,
being the best in
mhm, mhm,
market for each of them. So,
mhm,
if I ask you about product innovation, right? Like, what
mhm,
are those top three things you can say Cash Free stands for today that
mhm.
you guys have innovated? And and that also adds to your, let's say, brand value and the identity that you've created in the market. Like, what
Yep.
gives you an edge?
Yeah, so I think I already mentioned payouts, right? So which is bulk dispersal probably was something that we pioneered, and we are
Right.
probably the largest player there, right? We've also given used that feedback and given that to banks, right? And banks have been able to
Mm.
also at point take that feedback and improve their offering. We are all, and since UPI is big, I think we have focused a lot on UPI. I think UPI, while it sounds simple, I think it has a lot of complications in terms of the type of integration, reconciliation, processing refunds, and so on, right? So I think making UPI very easy to integrate on all platforms, and ensuring the best UPI experience for the merchant and the customer, right? I think we focused a lot on that, and we're one of the probably the best UPI products out there. Just for instance, I think mobile web is a often overlooked UPI platform, right?
Mm.
We people focus
Mm.
on maybe an app always, right? But mobile web actually gives significant traffic for a lot of businesses, right? So we really optimized our mobile UPI, mobile web UPI experience, right? And we saw a lot of value added to the businesses who were able to use that. So that's just an instance, I think, that we did. And apart from that, I think we focused on allied fintech related offerings. So for instance, we have a verification suite where which allows users to do KYC, starting from a simple bank validation, PAN validation, to something more complex like verification of Aadhaar, GST, and so on, right? So and that is something
Nice.
that grew pretty organically for us. I mean, it was not a part of the plan actually, but what we noticed is we
Hmm.
put up a landing page that says bank account verification, and people just started coming in there, and we got actually very big brands,
Wow.
right, through that. Maybe they were not paying us a lot, but they were actually pretty big, pretty big companies, right, in terms of the names. And then we said, oh, like, okay, let's make this, let's take this seriously, right? And then that kind of grew, and it became a significant business. So yeah, basically a lot of businesses were onboarding partners, vendors, customers, and everyone had like the need for a KYC, and KYC does not always mean bank grade KYC. You could just verify a bank account or a PAN,
Hmm.
and just for your daily operations, right? So a low touch KYC kind of a thing. So yeah, so that's something that again grew up, right? And then that's where our journey into, let's say, fintech, and not just payments also evolved,
Hmm.
right? So yeah,
Correct.
so those are a few things we did. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, obviously you did this from the early days. Now, your company is very large. There's so many people doing different parts of it. And you truly, I would say, a scaled up startup at this stage.
Hmm.
So, when it comes to the kind of team, the kind of people who have joined you on this journey, the way you look at, let's say, folks who should be part of, cash free and the ecosystem overall, what is it that you look for in terms of the kind of people looking to join the team beyond you know uh, the I would say beyond, let's say, their graduating college, or the basic hygiene stuff like that. What is it that being a founder yourself, right? You've hired folks. What is it you can say are the key
Hmm.
traits that you look for in someone?
Yeah, so I think what number one thing is that we would want is integrity, right? Because we're dealing with money. This is other people's money, a
Right.
lot of responsibility. So integrity is something we want. We want honesty, right? And apart from that, I think we want ambition, right, to grow, because we're a growing company. So you want to push the company forward, and yourself grow as a result of that in the process, right? So that desire to grow, to do something new, or do something big, or achieve something. And then there is lastly excellence, right, which is somewhat related maybe to the college you
Mhm.
went to. But yeah, I mean, we're not very finicky about college. In some cases we are, right? But yeah, but excellence as in, like, do you do the work well? Do you have high standards, right? So yeah, so those are some of the things we want.
Nice. All right. I mean, let's say I want to change track one more time and coming back to, we talk a lot about culture. I think, especially now that we're doing this series, we're trying to understand not just the payments ecosystem, but what it is to run a company like Cashfree, and the kind of, things that you need to do given the state of the, I would say, the vertical you guys are in, right? Payments, like you said, other people's money, a lot of movement around it, plus working with, even, let's say, regulators. You work with so many entities, right? So what how have you built the culture of the company, uh, modeled on maybe your own, what you like to do? Like you said, you love to travel, you love to, obviously there's a lot of sports happening in the company. What is it that uh, you see yourself doing in your downtime? Like, how do you manage downtime? How do you look at making sure you get the right kind of, let's say, rest and recreation to come back to work every day fully fueled up?
Yeah, so I think one thing I try to do is play and join the people, right? I think we have weekly football games. I have not been able to attend actually recent for a few months, but yeah, I do plan to get back. Yeah, and apart from that, I think apart from the regular travel, like playing, and I think I do try to take breaks, right? And I think I
Mhm.
like to travel, and whenever I get the chance, I try to scoot away, right? Like, it could be just visiting home, right, or it could also be maybe traveling around hills. I prefer hills, I
do you,
think. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
do you think you have like work life balance? Do you think that's something which everyone in the company sees today
Hmm.
as something they have? uh, how do you think about it? Like, a lot of, again, just to expand,
Hmm.
a lot of
Hmm.
folks jump into the startup industry assuming that it's all hustle, and of
Hmm.
course early years are like that. But how do you
Hmm.
see it today?
No, we definitely don't intend it that way. I think, but to answer your question, work-life balance, I think it depends a bit on the team and the time, right? So at certain point of time, certain teams would have a higher load than others, right?
Right.
But I think generally speaking, I think we want people to have a life, right? I think they should have a life outside of cash free and not spend a lot of the time, right? And because I don't think there is so much work that, like, I think if you're efficient and you can still do productive work, right? Like, I don't think if you're spending 13 15 hours, you're actually doing it the right way, probably, right? I think, I mean, we have seen probably some of the better people, they've been able to do it right, in the shorter time. But that said, yeah, I think you do get times where you have peaks and troughs, right, in your activity level, and those things could even last for a like for as long as 6 months at a time, right? So that's a part of how the environment influences us, environment, right? Like if you're fundraising, maybe the people involved in the
Yeah,
investment would probably be
of
working
course.
hard, right? And if you're trying to get a license or be compliant, maybe the relevant team would be furiously working on those things. So yeah, that's how it turns up. But yeah, I think on an average, over a long term, we want people to have a proper work life and enjoy their time here. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. I mean, probably it makes sense. Of course, if you are, let's say, the leading API banking company, you
Hmm.
probably want
Hmm.
everyone to build pipes and relax and let the
Hmm.
API sort of do its job.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Exactly.
I think time optimization probably is on the
Yeah.
top of a lot of
Yeah.
people's minds,
Yeah.
given what you stand for. Uh, but personally for you though, you mentioned obviously the journey has been very interesting all these years. Uh, but what keeps you sort of going? What is the next milestone you look forward to? How have you? I don't know if you foresaw where Cashfree would be 7 years ago, but what is it today that sort of keeps you going, keeps you motivated, gets you back to work every day?
Yeah. So yeah, I think firstly, yeah, I think we didn't have a lot of idea that we would turn up here, right? I think any day we would have taken this. But I think what keeps me going now is probably I think what I really like to spend time on is so we get people who sign up, right? So one part of being a fintech company is you enable new businesses, and see them grow, right? And that is pretty satisfying, and at the end of the day, overall it adds to let's say the economy, right? So I do enjoy looking at the new startups that sign up, and many times they're new business models, right? So it's just exciting, right? Like to see what new people are doing, and then it's
Hmm.
gratifying that they're trusting you and using your services, right? And beyond that, I think in terms of motivation, I think it's just watching other people I think grow up and deliver and step up, right? And enabling them to do
Nice.
that, right? And it feels satisfying when let's say maybe personally, let's say, oh, I thought this person would deliver, and they did deliver. So that, and yeah,
Nice.
so that's some of the things uh, that maybe keep me going. Yeah.
So you sound definitely like someone who obviously, you're when you're working, you're very heads down into your work. You really obviously know now the payments ecosystem so well. You have a vision for the company, uh, but there are some personal stuff, things which you still, I would say, try to maintain. You mentioned sports. I think one thing I had read, but you didn't mention, is you're into quizzing, if I understand it. I
Yeah.
think that's also something you share quite a bit about or talk quite a bit about. Uh,
uh,
what's the story there?
uh, Yeah, I think I quizzed a bit in college, not as
Uh-huh.
much after that. I think it gradually dropped off, largely because you enjoy quizzing with a set of people, I mean, who are friends, right? So it's a
Right?
fun experience with friends. So I think, right. So yeah, which was there in college, definitely, right. And now it's more sporadic, right? So we do go
Right.
occasionally to the weekly pub quizzes around. But it's
Okay.
much less. But yeah, I did enjoy it, and yeah.
You didn't bring that into cash free yet, or I imagine it might be there.
I think people who are like quizzing, no, I hope unfortunately I don't think I've seen too many quizzers like people who
Okay.
are there, but maybe yeah, that's something feedback. Maybe we should do a quiz. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good feedback. But generally we like people who are curious, right? So yeah,
Exactly. I think that's again continuing
yeah,
on your
yeah,
curiosity origins, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, perfect. You've been part of the industry now. I can call it payments industry in India is as probably as old as around what Cashfree is yourselves. So, you've seen the evolution of the industry. You've seen how rapidly it's, I would say, grown, especially Indian fintech and payments industry as such. Uh, why do you still think fintech and payments is the future? This what's your forward looking sort of confidence on this is where you want to be? There's so much more here to do.
Yeah, so I think it is fundamental to the growth of an economy, right? When you say financial services, right? And maybe
Right.
payments is just one part of that, right? And financial services kind of helps you maybe to get more bang for the buck, so to speak, right? Like you want businesses to grow. I think you want a good credit system and good payment systems, right? More transactions, more commerce, right? And more growth. So I think it's very important for the economy to grow, because like right now we now figured out, right, digital grows faster than non-digital, right? So that is where fintech comes in, right? Digital enablement of financial services, right? And payments is one key part of that. So if you have good,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and UPI is the oft repeated success story, right? You just have so many transactions going through, right? And it's just more business now, right? Which will have second order effects going forward, right? So it's very important, because we are a growing country. We need to maybe catch up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think fintech can be a very key component, in that, right? And so to be a part of that, I think it's gratifying, right? It's lucky for us, right? Being right place, right time.
Yeah, and you answered this earlier as if I were to ask you what is that one quality everyone who wants to join this industry or even Kashmir needs to have, you said integrity.
Hmm, hmm,
Uh,
hmm.
but let's say as a co-founder, someone who's been an entrepreneur, what would you say to another entrepreneur or budding entrepreneur today who wants to get into this industry and make a mark? Like what is it they should look for? How should they keep their
Yeah,
themselves sort of motivated? What any learnings you want to share basically?
yeah. Yeah, so I think one would be, I think you're only as good as the team, right? So I think we have been lucky that we found, or the right people found us at the right times, right? And so that was one of the things, right? I think it's very hard to achieve beyond a certain point, right? If you don't have the right team in place, right? Like you just can't grow or be successful beyond a point. So that is there, and yeah, maybe I think as the company grows, right? I think startups grow pretty fast, and the order of magnitude changes. Every 12
Mhm.
months, I think the order of magnitude is very different. What it was, you could take it in terms of the metrics or the headcount, right? So I think the skills that are expected are probably, they need to change very quickly, right? You have to wear different hats, be kind of cognizant that it's changing, and then adapt yourself, right? Like how you work when you are, let's say, 20 people is different from how you work at 100 people, and very different from how you are work at 500 people, right? So yeah, so I think that's pretty hard, right? And yeah, so I found it challenging, at least.
Interesting. And of course, I'm sure you're fully bullish on the prospects of the industry growing. Like you said, it's part of the economy, it's part of the fabric of commerce as we see it today. Uh, and I think we've heard a lot about obviously the new products that you're building and everything. What, as a final note, what would you say Cashfree stands for? Like what is that one or two words that you would like to just say is uh, is this is what you want to be remembered as?
Yeah, I think we would want to be innovative and reliable. I think those are the two things we want to be, like striving for, and then that's what we want to offer to our merchants as well. I mean, innovation is more of a DNA. I mean, but I think what we want to give to our customer is reliability, right? That which I think is key for financial services.
Nice, nice. Riju, I mean, I had a wonderful time, obviously, on this chat. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. share with us today. We will, of course, keep doing this series, and we'll also obviously wait to see all the innovations and things that come out of Cashfree
Mhm.
in the years to come. Thank you once again for sharing your background, sharing your story. And yeah, like you said, you'll see me on Twitter. I just realized you have a interesting Twitter handle yourself. So do you want to leave us with a last note on why you call yourself what do you call yourself on Twitter, and why?
Yeah, I call myself like it's Indian Jones, I think, and most people think, I think they miss that the A is missing, and it's pretty random. I think not much thought went to it. I think I was in the US when I set up that account, so yeah, just felt like missing home and made it Indian, and then yeah, just Indian Jones
Nice.
just came to mind. Yeah, obviously I didn't get Indian Jones, so I had to add a 90 at the end of it. So yeah, which is my
So
year of birth. Yeah, so yeah, not as creative as it sounds. Yeah,
that's still good to know.
yeah,
I think it's
uh,
also a plug for anyone listening. You
yeah.
can go follow Riju on Twitter right now. So
Yeah.
thank you, Riju.
Yeah.
Great talking to you, and of course,
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
being on the Payments Ecosystem podcast. It was a fun chat, and
Sure.
let's hope everyone keeps tuning into the series as we have a lot more folks from Cash Free joining and giving us their story. Uh, as part of this as well. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Shiladitya. Pleasure.